Hello, this is Jordan Sargent from FIE, the Foundation of International Education. I am the Digital Marketing Assistant working here in Foundation House, London. I'm joined today by Matthew Healy from New York City. He studied at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. Why don't you introduce yourself, Matthew?
Hey, Jordan. Yeah, my name is Matt Healy. I currently live in New York City, but I don't think any of this would have ever taken place had I not studied abroad with FIE back in 2019. So I currently work in the financial services executive search domain and have been out in New York for coming up on 5 years now.
Amazing. Thank you, Matthew. That's great. When did you decide to study abroad with FIE? What was the decision in 2019 where you thought, now I want to study abroad?
I had really just had interest in traveling outside of the US. I'd never left the US before study abroad, and I thought there was probably no better time to do that than during university. So I had contemplated between going to Ireland versus London, and upon doing more research, and I just felt like London was a better fit and somewhere that I wanted to spend more time and be able to travel universally outside of the London region while studying abroad.
Amazing. Cool. That's great. Thank you, Matthew. Um, was there something specific about the program or the city of London that really attracted you?
Yes, so I was really interested in the internship program. So I didn't know necessarily in university what I wanted to do. I was studying general business and finance and had an interest in sales. I actually don't think there could have been a better fit. So I was shown all of the options with regards to FIE and happened to be paired with a very good and tailored internship program for what I ultimately wanted to do. But given my interest in financial services, I felt that London was the place to be. And FIE, just based on the track record of placing individuals with internships and the camaraderie associated, that was pretty evident by doing homework on prior FIE stories and successes, if you will.
Amazing. That's really, really good to hear. The internship program is one of the really kind of key
Yep.
draws that a lot of students come to because of that international experience, that cross-cultural experience that a lot of students find. Uh, what was one of the most memorable or life-changing experience you had while studying abroad in London?
Well, I did meet my girlfriend of 5+ years on day one, studying abroad as a fellow abroad student from another school here in the U.S. So I have to answer that, and that is the case. But I think, as just personally speaking, I was told going into this just from mentors and friends that this experience would really zoom out perspective, and that it did. Like I honestly can't quantify that enough. I had never left the country. I had didn't really know what I was going to do after school, and the impact is really hard to pin down in any one area because I actually know for a fact that I wouldn't be where I am today with regards to career and being in New York had I not studied abroad. So I'd never really left the area of which I grew up. This zoomed out perspective, it got me out of my comfort zone in a helpful and constructive manner. And I think, yeah, honestly, it was life-changing as I think cliche, and I think something that probably sounds marketing centric for the business, but I can't really overestimate the impact that this really had on me, and it really changed my direction following the study abroad program, personally, professionally, and career-wise.
That's really good to hear. Especially finding your relationship. It usually is it's the most unexpected places
Yeah.
where you end up
And
landing those
funny enough, there
relationships as
were
well.
two long-term partnerships out of our one flat, which was pretty crazy to think about statistically. But we just got the wedding invite for another couple that was bred out of the same program the same
Uh,
year. So 5.5 years ago, which is pretty cool to think about. On top of just the individual aspect of uh, globalism and being able to expand individual horizons out of our comfort zone. So.
that's good. Yeah, that's really sweet. Thank you. Um, Did you face any challenges in your time in London? And if so, how did you overcome those
Yeah.
challenges?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I just had never been out of the country. I have a big family that I'm very close with. And I think, contrary to a lot of people in the program, I was the only one from my university over at that point in time. So I think it was probably one of the experiences you think about in life upon reflection of learning the most about yourself. I found myself in a short amount of time in a program that I didn't know anyone in another country I've never been to. And it really forces you out of your comfort zone in a way that there's, camaraderie with folks that are in the program. I think the challenges associated specifically were not knowing anyone, not knowing the area, just really, I think, in a comfortable way out of my comfort zone. And the challenges were really resolved by, I think, what FIE does, like better than any other program, really, is the sense of camaraderie that you ultimately get. And that's twofold, right? For me, it was the case of you are kind of forced in the best way possible to make friends with folks that more than you know actually come from similar backgrounds to you and have a sense of camaraderie of other, in this case, a lot of Americans that were in one program, many of which that also had never been to the UK before. In addition to that camaraderie, from a peer perspective, having the opportunity to, um, in a structured way, meet locals, if you will, work with them from an internship perspective, and have structure and security that I don't think the experience would have been the same without that. And I think that upon looking at other programs, like having the way that FIE's program is structured was a way that to safely push myself outside of my comfort zone. And I would highly recommend it to anyone else as well.
Amazing. That's really good to hear. Yeah, it's what I guess when you say that camaraderie as well, it's that feeling of, okay, well, I'm really nervous going into this. This is
Yep.
a completely new thing, but I have the solace that I'm not the only one here who's going through that sort of thing. So
Yep.
it's like I'm not going through it alone. I'm going through it together with other people. That really kind of helps you get through that initial hurdle.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that sense of camaraderie is a really strong feeling, that I'm
Yeah,
glad a
and
lot of
I find
students
it
get.
just the experience just really helps you learn so much about yourself. It's really hard to say it any better than that, I think,
Yeah.
with regards to getting out of your comfort zone, in a program of which is genuinely life-changing and fosters the ability to experience, personally and professionally, things that most people would never have access to.
Okay, amazing. Um, what do you think are the biggest benefits to studying abroad? And, why should more students consider study abroad as an
Yeah.
option in their education?
Yeah, I think perspective. My perspective most definitely zoomed out a lot. And that ranges from just really having more of a global understanding. That sounds high level, but what I mean by that is like the ability to really, really challenge yourself personally in an environment away from friends and family, right, for a set amount of time, that you're able to really challenge yourself, learn a lot about different people and different elements in the world that you don't get it traveling. I knew several people that had in the program, been to London in the past. Just a very different experience when you see the city in a different way, not as a tourist, but as a resident for a semester. And it
Yeah.
allows you to fully immerse yourself and get the experience of living internationally as a full-time resident rather than a tourist. And it's life-changing.
Yeah, I mean, as a resident especially, because
Yeah.
when you go on holiday, it's or vacation, it's like, okay, I've got a few days here, I'll get used to the area, but I'm going to be flying back out in a few days or a week. But as a
Yeah.
resident, that really makes sense because you're here for like 3 to 4 months, aren't you? So you haven't got a choice but to stay where you are. So I guess it really does put you in that position of a kind of
Yeah.
foreign atmosphere without, not foreign language, but foreign culture, foreign streets, just
Sure.
everything. Yeah. So yeah, that's a really good experience for students at a young age as well to really experience. Um, how did studying abroad influence your career goals and or professional development?
in every single way. Candidly, I think the internship was a huge piece of seeing international business firsthand. Um, Being able to I think it's a really neat experience. I think for anyone else that I can promise that in any interview that you ever have, like it gets brought up and people have questions about it because it's fascinating. People know the challenges and the learning opportunities associated with such. But for me specifically, I did an internship with a small company I'd never heard of that allowed me the opportunity to have fun, but also learn a lot in a small environment surrounded by folks coming from very different backgrounds and places in the world. And how it's helped me is really cementing myself in a role and actually in a field that's kind of an extension of like the internship that I'd actually done, funny enough. So my internship was in sales for like the real estate industry in the UK. I'm currently working in an executive search domain in New York. That has historically been a very sales oriented industry, and also executive search and broader recruitment also being an industry that a lot of the market historically has been based out of the UK, and it's been an English dominant industry. So the reason I say that is I would have never dreamed pre-study abroad that I'd be living in New York working with a company, or in this case in my career multiple companies that have team members that are sat in London, trips that are in London, and learning how to really, really work with people effectively, coming from all different walks of life, um, figuratively and literally in terms of specific geographics as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting, especially that you went from London to New York, and also you're doing
Yeah,
other stuff in London. You've kind of gone through two of the most extreme kind of business hubs in the world,
yeah,
and it's really good to hear that it's the like that one of the catalysts for that always that internship here in London
it
with FI as
yeah,
well.
it solely was. And I think it's worth noting, like I grew up in a town in Illinois that the nearest population was 90 people. Very, very small. Could not be further apart than there's more folks in my building currently than the nearest town that I grew up in. And the opportunity to participate in this program really pushed me to really exploring a lifestyle that I would have not otherwise, i.e., city living and traveling. And yeah, I think for anyone, it was from one extreme to another, but the cushion or the safety net was having the structure and support of FIE.
That's really good to hear. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah.
Um, this might be a bit of a hard one. So don't feel like you need to answer it, or if it's just too hard. But can you describe your study abroad experience in one word, and why does that word resonate with you?
I think the first word comes to mind is fitting, and that's transformative. In every single element. I think that from a personal perspective, being put in um, challenging circumstances, from a professional standpoint, getting to see what the business world is like and working with folks from different backgrounds. Um, and personal relationship wise as well. I still actually have very good friends from the program as well that we stay in touch with and are close with.
That's nice. Okay. For let's say there is, there's a student that like from friends who might be one of your friend's children or a younger brother or
Yeah,
younger brother sister or something, and they're considering studying abroad with FIE. What advice would you give them before they've done the sign up, they've done the application,
yeah.
it's a week away from departure? What advice would you give them?
I would give them the advice to commit and go in with an open mind. I think that there's probably, in hindsight, it may seem a bit impulsive, but there's, as humans, the desire to know as much as possible about what's to come. But I actually think in this experience, no matter how you draw out what you think study abroad is going to be like, I actually don't think it will be as planned unless maybe you have friends that have done this program in particular. For me, and I think what really made this as transformative as it was as an experience is I had no idea what to expect. I didn't really speak with anyone else that had participated in FIE directly, nor studied abroad actually. So I think just going in with an open mind, knowing that it's a finite experience. That's the big one, right? Knowing that this is a finite experience that you need to make the most of and enjoy, maximize, and have fun. That would be my words of wisdom. I think keeping in mind that, there's, I think for most people in the program, what I found is at the end of the program, nobody wants to go home. And it's a finite program. Ours was what, approximately 12 weeks. When you're there, it feels like I'm here for a long time. By the end of it, you wish you could just extend, right?
Yeah.
It's the amount of knowing not to take a single day for granted, but also not planning too much in advance and just letting the study abroad course play out in terms of traveling to other areas. Always you feel like a resident. And living in New York now, I no longer do a lot of the tourist stuff that I would have participated in week one. But I think being able to have the discipline post week 3 or 4, you get tired of going around and seeing the London sightseeing stuff. But I think in hindsight, like take advantage of it, maximize your time, and keep in mind that there will be no other point in your life. This is the big one. No other point in your life that you'll have the opportunity to be living in another country without the commitment of working full time, or in a, for instance, research or PhD program. Like for me, it was the best of both worlds of having structure and fulfillment of day-to-day school work and internship work, but without the responsibility that we all have as adults post-college, which is pretty crazy to think about. And not to mention, I think the big piece is you're also, with FIE's specific locations in London, what I found after going back to London a number of times for work, I don't think there's another point that most people will actually have the opportunity to live in those areas, especially as a grad. I was in South Kensington for context. And if you look up South Kensington flat prices, I think a lot of people will probably second guess if they're going to be living there, even if they were there full time for at least some years in their career. So being able to be in such a nice area of London, with limited commitment or responsibility, if you will, is pretty significant.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, when it comes to a lot of students I've spoken to, with my time working at FIE, as it comes towards the end of their program,
Yeah.
there's definitely this aspect of, all right, it feels like I've been here for a while now, but they're already getting homesick and they don't,
Yeah.
like there's no such thing as too much time.
Yep.
So I can only imagine just like the absolute kind of life-changing experience of actually residing in that.
Yep.
Funny you mentioning South Kensington. It is the second most wealthy borough in London. I
Yeah.
think Mayfair's number one.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do walk past those estate houses and look at the prices. Think, oof, like yeah. So yeah, I mean it's got its influence for a reason. I think yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. This is the last question. So take as much time as you want to think about it or
Yeah.
answer it. But how has your connection to London and your study abroad experience stayed with you even now in your professional life?
In so many ways. I think I've touched on a few of these, but breaking it down from personal to professional, I mean, starting with personal, um, I think while I was studying abroad and being in London and with the program, I think ended up visiting 8 or 9 countries over the course of the semester, having never been to another one before this. So from 0 to, or I guess 1 to 9, zooming out perspective with that as well of uh, one, making friends with folks that you just never known before and taking trips with them, as most people in FIE will actually find themselves doing, is the sense of camaraderie really is fostered innately with the program to be able to travel with folks you've never known before. Personally did solo travel as well to other countries, which I'd never done as well, which was very, very cool. And then just perspective of being able to understand, I think, I'd like to think how the world works in a slightly zoomed out manner of, this feeling of everyone being a lot more alike as humans than not, and being able to see folks from all different parts of life across the globe. With that as well, personally, of course, is having met my longtime partner of 5.5 years now throughout the program as well. I don't think that's something that happens for everyone, nor is advertised whenever I was signing up with FIE. But I think it clearly would not have met Haley had that not taken place, and know of one other couple as well that was the result of this program in particular, which is pretty cool actually when you think about it, and the odds of that happening with folks that you would have in no other world had the opportunity to meet, which is pretty crazy to think about. And then professionally, with the internship program, working with folks in London, I've now been back a number of times for work, and it not only opened my eyes to what London was like, but also just industry-wise, being able to understand the opportunities that's out there, London, New York, anywhere in the world. But I think really from an internship perspective and career-wise now, like having the opportunity to know even just how to have a better sense of how to work with folks of different backgrounds, excel in the world of finance and sales and search, if you will, and really leverage like the relationship building that comes from a program like this, both with folks in the program, but even individuals that I would have met through the internship program that I still stay in touch with. And all of those combined, it's actually the reason I'm pausing. There's so much that we could talk about there across personal and professional. But from seeing new places, from traveling, to learning so much about yourself as an individual, to the potential possibilities of finding others as well, and then professionally having an experience of interning in another country, which is really, really cool, with otherwise businesses you likely may not have ever had the opportunity to know, and in an environment where really everything's taken care of. Right? I came over with one suitcase. I think a lot of people had two or three, but came over with one suitcase. You're set up in a structured environment where you really don't have to worry about anything. There's grocery stores everywhere around the corner. There's resources on day one with what a structure looks like throughout the whole program. And really, there's nothing to worry about, which was just, it was almost like, I think I would describe the service provided by FIU as like all inclusive of really everything was laid out where no really external preparation was needed outside of just personal stuff of on day one, itineraries were given, there were events hosted to foster the camaraderie in hindsight is what ended up happening, of social events to meet people. But everything's taken care of. And like my words of wisdom are 100% do it and make the most of it and take not a single day for granted, because I think I've never met anyone that's regretted it. And I also know how life-changing firsthand it can be just based on my personal circumstances.
Amazing. That's really good to hear. Thank you so much, Matthew.
Yep.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.